Okay, good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, March 5th, and this is the bill hearings of the Ways and Means Committee. We will be starting with House Bill 23, and there are amendments. Delegate Wells.
Madam Chair, so this bill, just to remind folks, it authorized counties to impose a special, Okay, sorry. I got confused with 59 and 23. Let me back up. So it authorized counties to impose a special property tax rate on commercial and industrial property. Revenue from the special rate must be spent on transportation or education. The special rate is limited to 12.5 cents for each 100 of assessed value and does not apply to residential portion of a mixed-use building. And counties are authorized to provide a credit against a special rate for small businesses. What the amendment does is it clarifies that the maximum rate of 12.5 cents applies cumulatively to both transportation and education special rates. Move the amendment.
Okay, any discussion on the amendment? Okay, all in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion on the bill is amended. The bill is amended. Second. Okay, discussion? Okay, discussion, Delegate Griffith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, we've talked about this ad nauseum in subcommittee, but very concerned about the bill giving counties the opportunity to provide a special tax rate, which would obviously likely be a higher tax rate on commercial properties. We're seeing massive with foreclosure rates now in commercial properties. We're seeing commercial properties sell at much lower than the original value because of lack of use in office space, driven by virtual work and a few other factors. So I think this is very, very aggressive, and I'll be voting no. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other discussion? Okay, we will do a roll call. The motion was for a favorable as amended. The Vice Chair?
Yes.
Delegate Ebersol is excused. Delegate Patterson? Yes. Delegate Buckle? No. Delegate Fair?
Yes.
Delegate Hornberger? No. Delegate Long? No. Delegate Young? No. Delegate Miller? No. Delegate Roberson?
Sorry. Yes. Yes, and explain my vote.
Yes.
I appreciate the conversations I've had with the sponsor and with subcommittee, and the reason I was able to come to yes was because of the understanding on how we're able to adjust our property taxes based on businesses versus residences. So I appreciate the chair's indulgence of both the subcommittee and the committee and the sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Roberts? Yes. Delegate Wims? Yes. Delegate Vogel? Yes. Delegate Wu? Yes. Delegate Hartman? No. Delegate Muir-Q North? Yes. Delegate Griffith? No. Delegate Wells? Yes. Delegate Plakovich-Carr? Yes. Delegate Feldmark?
Yes.
House Bill 23 passes favorably as amended. House Bill 59, and there are amendments. Delegate Wells.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The amendment strike provisions requiring local governments other than Baltimore City to withhold properties from tax sale for water liens alone. We have two additional amendments. One of the amendments, what it does is it keeps the time, the date, or the months for which the foreclosure process can begin. It keeps it at its existing level, which is at 9 months versus 12 months. And it also provides a provision that gives more time for the physical posting of the foreclosure judgment from currently at 1 day to 10 days. Move the amendments.
Is there a second? Okay. Discussion on that first amendment? Okay, all in favor of the First Amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the First Amendment passes. Delegate Wells?
Move the bill as amended, Madam Chair.
Oh, you did them both?
Oh, we did both of the amendments, yeah, all three, I should say.
Okay, the motion is for, was there a second? Second. Okay, any discussion on the bill as amended? Okay, roll call. I'm sorry, Delegate Griffith.
Just very briefly, this bill's not perfect, but I don't want good to be the enemy of great. So I appreciate the chair, subcommittee chair, Stan, and everybody's work on making this bill a much better product. And for those reasons, I'll be voting yes. So thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call on the favorable as amended. The Vice Chair?
Yes.
Delegate Ebersol is excused. Delegate Patterson? Yes. Delegate Buckle? Delegate Fair? Yes. Delegate Hornberger? Yes. Delegate Long? Yes. Delegate Young? Delegate Miller? Yes. Delegate Roberson? Yes. Delegate Roberts? Yes. Delegate Wims? Yes. Delegate Vogel? Yes. Delegate Wu? Yes. Delegate Hartman? No. Delegate Miracle North? Yes.
This bill is, actually, I concur with my colleague here. It's definitely a compromised version. I do not necessarily, I don't agree with the change from 12 months to 9 months. However, I don't want to let the perfect be enemy of the good. That's the right phrase. So that's why I'm voting yes.
Okay. Delegate Griffith?
Yes.
Delegate Wells?
Yes.
Delegate Plakovich-Carr? Yes. Delegate Feldmark?
Yes.
House Bill 59 passes favorably as amended. House Bill 150, Delegate Plakovich-Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As amended, this departmental bill repeals the requirement that child care centers serving more than 20 children must have at least one staff member per 20 children who is certified in basic first aid and CPR training, but requires that MSDE set a ratio of certificate holders to children by regulation. So the amendments require that MSDE set a ratio of first aid and CPR certificate holders to children for child care centers with more than 20 children. Move the amendment.
Okay, any discussion on the amendment? Delegate Miller.
I apologize. Could you go through that one more time?
Yes, no worries. So the bill as it came in would have just fully repealed the requirements on the staffing ratios for who has to be CPR and first aid certified and let MSD handle it through regulation. The amendments say, kind of give a backstop to say that MSD has to set in regulation a ratio. And what they testified when we heard this bill a while ago at this point is that they are already moving through the regulatory process and they're changing the ratio from one staff per 20 kids to one per 30 kids. So that's what we'll likely see come out of regulation.
Okay, but so we're no longer codifying it in law, so they could theoretically set whatever ratio they would like, because we're not putting the ratio into law anymore, whereas the 1 to 20 was into law. So if they decide they want to do 1 to 50, they could do it, or something like that, because it's not in the law.
It does give the flexibility to MSDE to set the specific ratio by regulation.
Okay, and that would be my concern, because obviously from the hearing, you all know how I feel about the importance of those two factors in that. So, all right, thank you.
Well, regulations are law, so we're not putting it in the statute.
Right, we're not putting it in the statute, but then they could do whatever they want with the regulation because we're not putting it into statute. Whereas we have the 1 to 20 in statute, so they could not do a regulation that opposes the statute.
Delegate Buckle.
Delegate Plakovich-Carr, did the child care, whatever you want to call them, community stakeholders, the people who operate these typically privately, did they have any perception on this? I just want to get a sense of if there was opposition or if they thought this would actually perhaps help them because it maybe alleviates the need for them to hire more and more people and drive up the costs.
Yeah, my recollection was there was no opposition testimony on the bill as it came in, and I'll say the amendments that we pursued give a little bit more of a backstop, but I don't recall any concerns from the child care providers on just a full repeal in statute and just leaving it to regulation.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the amendments? Delegate Vogel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question. Is the 1 to 30 ratio similar to what we see in other states?
Waiting for my mic. Okay, there we go. Thank you for the question. I don't know what the answer is in terms of other states. I will just say that 1 to 30 ratio had gone through a very robust public outreach process that MSD already had been doing that involved 2 of their advisory groups on early childhood. And then, of course, any regulations are subject to public comment period as well. So they will still have to go through that. So.
Any other discussion on the amendments? Okay, all in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the amendment's passed. Motion on the bill as amended.
Favorable? Second.
Any discussion on the bill as amended? Shall I roll call? Okay. So the motion is for a favorable as amended. The Vice Chair?
Yes.
Delegate Ebersol is excused. Delegate Patterson?
Yes.
Delegate Buckle? Yes. Delegate Fair?
Yes.
Delegate Hornberger? No. Delegate Long? Delegate Young? Absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to give special kudos to our subcommittee chair for working with me on some of the amendments. I just want to put on the record that this is a bill where I see MSDE taking on more work, and we constantly hear from them that there's some reason why when we give them more work that it's a challenge. So I just want to make sure that we take a look at how much regulation and work that they are doing in the long term, because I see an incongruency here where they want to take a regulation or take ownership of a decision-making process here, but every other time we try to give them something, it's a challenge. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Delegate Miller? And how did you vote? I'm sorry. You voted yet?
Excuse me, yes.
Okay, thank you, sorry. Delegate Miller?
Yes, no, and explain my vote. So along the similar lines as my colleagues, I am going to vote no, just because it does concern me. We had this codified in language for a reason, and the first aid and the CPR aspect, especially with young children, is so such a priority, and so I feel it's so important for them to know that. If we had another backstop, so to speak, that would say they had to either report back to us what the ratio was, or at least, let us know, and if we could, do an adjustment, I would be more okay with it as far as that, but as it stands now, I'm going to vote no.
Okay, Delegate Roberson? Yes. Delegate Roberts? Yes. Delegate Wims? Yes. Delegate Vogel? Yes. Delegate Wu? Yes. Delegate Hartman? No. Delegate Miracle North? Yes. Delegate Griffith? Delegate Wells? Yes. Delegate Plavkovich-Carr?
Yes, and to explain my vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just so colleagues are aware, the legislature does get a second bite at the apple. Every state regulation that is proposed by any state agency has to be reviewed by the Joint Committee on Administrative, Executive, and Legislative Review. I don't know, there's probably members of this committee who serve on that joint committee. There will be another opportunity, as well as the robust public comment period that is coming.
Okay, Delegate Feldmark?
Yes.
Okay, House Bill 150 passes favorably as amended. House Bill 237, Vice Chair.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. House Bill 237, General Assembly Vacancy, Political Party Central Committee's Procedures. This bill establishes procedural requirements for a political party central committee when it fills a vacancy in the General Assembly, including public notice and a public meeting. I would like to, Madam Chair, thank Delegates Griffith and Delegate Plavkovich-Carr for their bipartisan leadership on this legislation. I move favorable. Sorry.
Okay, any discussion? Delegate Griffith?
Just very, very briefly, when we drafted this legislation, I did work with Nicole Harris, chair of the Republican State Party, to make sure that the language does not conflict with the state party bylaws. She was agreeable to it, just to answer any questions. So this does jive with the Republican State Party bylaw, so.
Okay, Delegate Young?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As somebody who went for a vacancy and lost that vote as a result of a lack of procedure and ambiguity therein, I just want to put on the record that I'm really grateful for the work on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? House Bill 237 passes favorably. House Bill 426, the Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 426, post-election tabulation of audits, risk-limiting audits. This is one that we've passed through committee a few times, and we're hopeful that this year will be the charm. The bill requires a statewide risk-limiting audit and a local risk-limiting audit in each county before certification of each election. And as a reminder, colleagues, risk-limiting audits are a type of audit that uses statistics to determine that if we were to hand count that race, that the chances of there being a different outcome would be extremely insignificant. And this is the gold standard when it comes to audits, and we do audit after every single election. So this would help us to have a better, more accurate, more efficient audit. There are no amendments. I move favorable.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, House Bill 426 passes favorably. House Bill 477, and there are amendments. Delegate Plavkovich-Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As amended, this bill requires the State Department of Education to conduct a thorough analysis of the state's regulatory requirements for child care facilities, paying particular attention to regulations that affect the opening or operating of a child care facility. In doing its analysis, the department shall inquire whether each regulation contributes to a safer environment for children and employees, a quality education, or has a significant impact on the opening or operation of a child care facility. The department shall look at the regulatory framework in other states and regions, and the department shall issue an interim report by January 1st, 2026, and a final report by September 1st, 2026. The amendments strike the bill and are the description that I just read before. Move the amendments.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the amendment's passed. Motion on the bill is amended. Okay, any discussion? Delegate Roberson?
I just really want to say thank you to the chair, the subcommittee for working with me on trying to get this bill out. And there were some questions that I had, but I appreciate her working with me so that way we can find some balance of what I would have liked to seen come out. So I appreciate the chair for that and appreciate the movement on the amendments as well. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, House Bill 477 passes favorably as amended. House Bill 493, and there are amendments. And Delegate Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As amended, this bill designates November 14th of each year as Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day to commemorate Ruby Bridges. The State Department of Education is required to develop model content for a program of education for Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day. The model content must include resources to assist teachers in engaging students in discussions about civil rights and social justice, and may include age-appropriate instructional material. The amendments remove specific requirements for county boards of education when implementing the program of education for Ruby Bridges Day, and remove a requirement that MSDE adopt regulations. Move the amendment.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the amendments? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The amendment's passed. Motion on the bill as amended. So, is there a second? Okay, all in favor? Oh, wait, any discussion on the bill as amended? Okay, so I'm gonna, raise your hand if you would like to do a me too, so that you want your name on the bill. Keep your hand up until I call your name, please. The Vice Chair, Delegate Patterson, I was like, this is your bill, but it's not your bill. Delegate Patterson, Delegate Fair, Delegate Young, Delegate Roberson, Delegate Roberts, am I going too fast? Delegate Wims, Delegate Vogel, Delegate Wu, Delegate Muraque North, Delegate Wells, Delegate Palakovich-Carr, Delegate Feldmark, and the chair. Okay, thank you. Did we vote? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, House Bill 493 passes favorably as amended. House Bill 596, and there are amendments. Delegate Hornberger.
Okay. HB 569. Wait a minute. Yep. Since Eversol's not here today, I'm filling in for him.
We appreciate your service.
Yep. This is a simple and straightforward bill. It just streamlines the process for children of service members and be able to enroll in our public schools. Move the bill favorable.
Well, there's an amendment.
Okay.
That's why we don't have to do that.
What's the amendment?
Okay. As amended, the bill requires local school systems to allow a dependent child of a service member to apply for advanced enrollment in a public school and specifies requirements for advanced enrollment procedures. The amendments create a process for the parent or guardian of child who is a dependent of military service member to note whether the child has an IEP or a 504 plan, which was brought up during the testimony, ensuring that a child continues to receive an appropriate education when enrolling in Maryland. Additionally, the amendments allow a dependent child who has used advanced enrollment to continue to be enrolled till the end of the school year, even if the child no longer meets the residency requirements. Finally, the amendment allows a student using advanced enrollment to have the same access to courses and programs as another student enrolled in the school. I move the amendment.
Okay, and is there any discussion on the amendments? Delegate Griffith.
Hey, what's the fiscal note on bill as amended? No, thank you, just kidding, thank you.
No change in the fiscal note.
Okay. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the amendment's passed. Motion on the bill as amended.
Move favorable.
Okay, discussion on the bill? Did you? Okay. Any discussion on the bill as amended? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, are there any me toos on the bill? Raise your hand, please. Okay. Okay, the vice chair, Delegate Fair, Delegate Hornberger, Delegate Long. What? Delegate Young, Delegate Miller, Delegate Roberts, Delegate Wims, Delegate Vogel, Delegate Wu, Delegate Hartman, Delegate Miracle North, Delegate Griffith, Delegate Wells, Delegate Plakovich-Carr, Delegate Feldmark, and the chair. Okay, House Bill 596 has passed favorably as amended. I don't know that the next one's as popular, but House Bill 634. Delegate Feldmark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 634 establishes an income tax reconciliation program administered by the comptroller to allow justice-involved individuals who are unable to file a state income tax return while incarcerated to establish installment payment plans and receive a waiver of accrued interest and penalties for tax years 2025 through 2029. Move favorable.
Second. Discussion on the bill. Delegate Hornberger.
Their tax,
Yeah, okay, go ahead now.
does this assess their tax where they are incarcerated or their home jurisdiction?
It doesn't pertain to the assessment of the tax. It pertains to a payment plan for the taxes that they have been previously assessed for and are delinquent on. So it could pertain to, say, it's income tax related, so it could be state income tax or it could be county income tax.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for.
Yes, sorry.
Day of incarceration, okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, the motion is for a favorable. I will do a roll call on the favorable on House Bill 634. The Vice Chair.
Yes.
Delegate Ebersol is excused. Delegate Patterson. Yes. Delegate Buckle. Delegate Fair. Yes. Delegate Hornberger. Yes. Delegate Long. Delegate Young. Delegate Miller. No. Delegate Roberson. Delegate Roberts. Yes. Delegate Wims. Yes. Delegate Vogel. Yes. Delegate Wu. Yes. Delegate Hartman. Yes. Delegate Miracle North. Yes. Delegate Griffith. Yes. Delegate Wells. Yes. Delegate Plakovich-Carr. Yes. Delegate Feldmark.
Yes.
House Bill 634 passes favorably. House Bill, guys, keep it down. We're getting through this. House Bill 672, and there are amendments. Delegate Plakovich-Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are secondary on this bill to HGO. They've already passed it out. As amended, this bill requires the Maryland Department of Health and the Maryland State Department of Education to conduct an annual assessment of the school health and wellness personnel workforce in the state. The departments must jointly submit an annual report to the General Assembly and publish the report on their websites. The bill also adds a school nurse member nominated by the Maryland Association of School Health Nurses to the Maryland Council on Advancement of School-Based Health Centers. The amendment requires MSDE and Department of Health in conducting its annual assessment to consult with associations of school health and wellness professionals in addition to other stakeholders, and also specifies that the annual report must be published on each department's website. Move the amendments.
Okay, discussion on the amendment, Delegate Buckle?
Chair, Delegate Palakovich-Carr, I tried to look it up on the system, but it wasn't on there. Do you have an understanding as to what the vote was in the HGO committee, if it was unanimous or there was some split as to what? I mean, frankly, for most of us, I have really no idea what the bill does. I didn't hear it, I didn't look at it, so I'm just trying to figure out what potential issues may exist.
It was a party line vote in HGO.
Do you have any idea, and this may be unfair to ask you, but does anyone have any idea why?
I'm sorry, I do not have that information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on the amendments? Okay, all in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the amendment's passed. Motion on the bill is amended. Discussion on the bill as amended. Okay, let's do a roll call. On the favorable as amended, the Vice Chair?
Yes.
Delegate Ebersol is excused. Delegate Patterson? Yes. Delegate Buckle?
Yeah, I'll briefly explain my vote.
Yes.
As I really don't know, I hate to say this, people are watching, I really don't know. We vote on thousands of bills. I really don't know exactly what this does, and I'm going to simply defer by the fact that other members of my party that sometimes I'm aligned with looked more closely at the bill and voted against it. I can't tell you exactly why, but I'm going to be safe rather than sorry, and we'll figure it out on the floor as to why we voted against it. So I'll vote no. Thank you.
Okay. Delegate Fair? Yes. Delegate Hornberger? No. Delegate Long? No. Delegate Young? Delegate Miller? Delegate Roberson? Delegate Roberts? Yes. Delegate Wims? Yes. Delegate Vogel? Yes. Delegate Wu? Yes. Delegate Hartman? No. Delegate Miracle North? Yes. Delegate Griffith? No. Delegate Wells? Yes. Delegate Palakovich-Carr? Yes. Delegate Feldmark? Yes. House Bill 672 passes favorably as amended. Delegate House Bill 694, and there are amendments. Delegate Palakovich-Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As amended, this bill requires each local school system, as part of its regular safety evaluation of each public school, to identify issues with physical safety and associated issues of accessibility for individuals with disabilities. Additionally, in each local school system's annual report to the Maryland Center for School Safety on emergency incidences from the preceding school year, they have to report on instances in which a school facility became inaccessible for a student with a disability in a manner that could impede evacuation or an emergency response. This report is then used by each local school system to update each school's emergency plan, and the amendments are what I just described. Move the amendments.
Okay, any discussion on the amendments? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the amendments passed. Motion on the bill as amended. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, House Bill 694 passes favorably as amended. House Bill 790, and there are amendments. Delegate, who's doing this? Delegate Wells.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the bill requires the taxpayers be notified of property tax payment plans through inserts in property tax bills, tax sale notices, and local government property tax websites. The amendment changes the effective date for this to May 1st, 2027. Move the amendment.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion on the bill is amended.
Move the bill as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, House Bill 790 passes favorably as amended. House Bill 907, Delegate Wells.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The bill alters requirements for the optional local property tax credit for urban agriculture. It repeals acreage requirements and expands eligibility to include indoor production of agricultural products and agritourism. Move the bill.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, House Bill 907 passes favorably as amended. Congrats, sir. House Bill 945, the Vice Chair.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. House Bill 945, Election Law, Gubernatorial Primary Election Date. This bill changes the date of the gubernatorial primary election from the last Tuesday in June to the fourth Tuesday in June. And as you recall, this is to avoid several holidays that would take place every few election cycles during that time. I move favorable on House Bill 945.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, House Bill 945, oh, okay, sorry, Delegate Long is opposed. Anyone else? Okay, House Bill 945 passes favorably. I was about to say as amended, but there are no amendments. Okay, House Bill 993, and there are amendments, Delegate Vogel.
The whole description or just the amendments?
Just the amendments.
The amendments alter the bill by changing a course for middle school students on the consequences of a felony murder conviction into an instructive program on the consequences of a criminal conviction to be offered in a short period of time to middle school students placed in school suspension or returning to school after being removed due to suspension or expulsion. Move the amendment.
Second. Any discussion? Delegate Roberson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just like clarification. I'm sorry I didn't see the amendment. But so we're saying that once you return from suspension or in-school suspension, you have to take the course. Am I correct?
It's like, it's not a course, it's like a shortened.
Basically a
video.
You're being shown, you're being talked to and shown.
Do you want me to give you the answer?
Okay.
Let's let the floor leader lead.
That's what I thought. I was asking the floor leader, but.
Delegate, as amended, the bill requires MSD to develop an instructive program with the aim of teaching students in grades 6 through 8 about the consequences of a criminal conviction in a short period of time. MSDE must provide material designed for the program to public middle schools throughout the state. A public middle school must administer the program to a student through an appropriate staff member when the student is, 1, placed in an in-school suspension, or 2, returning to school after being removed due to suspension or expulsion.
Thank you. And so for suspension, this would include all issues, regardless if they were violent or not, is what I'm trying to say. So it's all suspension forms.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
It would be all suspensions, regardless if it was violent or not, as long as they were suspended. Am I correct?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any more discussion on the amendments? Okay, all in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion on the bill is amended. Any discussion? Delegate Young?
I want to get a little more clarity from Delegate Roberson on his concern.
Thank you, colleague. I appreciate that, and thank you, Madam Chair. So my concern was just around the connection between suspension and criminal behavior. And so I understand this is, I believe the intention is for deterrence. But, you know, based on this, the conversation, for instance, okay, I'll use myself as an example. I was suspended for arguing with an individual during lunch and had in-school suspension. Doesn't mean I didn't understand, and I feel like the criminal penalties are taken to another level, what had nothing to do with the argument that I had during a lunch period where the individual vice principal felt like I would needed in-school suspension. And I feel like this elevates the conversation in a way that now takes it to somewhere else. So that's just my concern around it. I understand that it's just a video that's shown prior to their returning, and I believe, like I said, it's to be a deterrent, but just the methods behind it is where my concerns lie. So I just want to share that, and I apologize, I did not see this prior to committee to have this discussion, but I appreciate the chair's indulgence.
So we passed this possibly in a different form, slightly different last session, and Delegate Conaway is very concerned, and I think they're rightly so, that it's too late, right? It's not necessarily, he's not necessarily saying that everyone who gets suspended is going to have some violent behavior. But what he's saying is for individuals who do have some violent behavior and then do get arrested and it goes down the whole path, like it's too late. Like schools should be teaching, he really wants a course on if you do X, Y and Z could happen to you. And so that might make you not do X. right? So this is where his impetus from the bill comes from. Delegate Fair? Oh. What'd you say, Delegate Patterson?
On the bill, it says felony murder. I don't know if that was modified or not. Okay.
That was amended out of this new bill. Sorry, yep,
Felony murder was amended out of the bill.
yes.
Delegate Roberts?
Never mind.
Any more discussion on the bill? Delegate Young?
Thank you. So I think what Delegate Roberson has said has struck me. I didn't even think about it that way. I'll give y'all a quick story. I got in a fight and got suspended when I was a kid because some other kid was beating up on my brother, and I smashed that kid. And, you know, at the end of the day, I was the one that ended up having to be suspended. Under this bill, I'm the one that's going to have to take this course. I think I'm concerned because I think that the sponsor's original intent was for each and every student to have to get this type of information or instruction, and it would be uniform. It would not be focused specifically on some child that's in a certain circumstance, but that every child he wants to get this information so that way every child, because any child might be in a circumstance where they might you know, be in a criminal circumstance. To break it down to just individuals who might be in trouble at school, I think does raise other concerns. So I'm in alignment with Delegate Roberson. I wish I would have been able to have this understanding or thought process before when we were still considering the amendment. But I do want to make sure that all students get the type of forward thinking, or what's the word I'm looking for? I want all students to be able to get this type of instruction before they might be in a circumstance where they're already in trouble.
Okay, any other discussion on the bill? What did this committee vote out last year? Alistair?
So last year, you voted on a very similar version to this version. It was an instructive program for students returning from suspension or in-school suspension on the collateral consequences of criminal conviction. This year's bill is only on all the consequences of a criminal conviction, including the collateral consequences. The difference between the version of the bill last year and this version of the yes, so this is the instructive course is on the consequences of a criminal conviction, which include the collateral consequences, such as losing your right to vote. So I think that is what motivated the bill's sponsor, was that people might know about some of the consequences of a crime, such as time served and such as the criminal penalties you incur, but they don't necessarily know about other ways it can affect your life, such as your loss of particular abilities to participate in federal programs like housing vouchers, your potential inability to vote in certain states, and things of that nature. So I think that was the intent behind it. This year's bill was slightly different than the bill introduced last year. So the bill that is before you is modeled on the differences from this year's bill.
Delegate Long?
Real quick, Madam Chair, thank you. I support the bill because anytime we can intervene with a child before they get in any more trouble, I think is a great thing. So that's why I support this bill.
Okay. Delegate Roberts?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a comment. I think that I'm going to be in supportive of this bill because no matter what the reason was that a child gets suspended or not, I mean, we're teaching, hopefully parents are teaching children these consequences at home, but I see nothing wrong with reinforcement.
Thank you. Delegate Wells, did you?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask to clarify again the amendment, what the amendment does.
The bill is introduced requires that a middle school, that MSDE adopt a curricular framework for instruction on the consequences of a felony murder conviction and that each middle school in the state provide that course to all the middle school students. The amendment alters that. Instead of a course taught to each student, there is an instructive program on the consequences of criminal conviction for any crime that is taught to students when they are placed in in-school suspension or returned to school after suspension or expulsion.
Okay, so, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Delegate Miracle North.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to clarify, as I'm looking at the amendment, the instructor program, there's no specificity, if that's the right word, as to what type of program is up to MSD, correct? Okay, just want to make sure of that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion?
Can we actually, sorry.
Delegate Young.
I just want to put on the record that I think this should go to every kid, and if there's any way that we could make that happen, that would really help me strengthen my position on this bill.
Say that again?
Right now, the bill limits this instruction to students who are in trouble. And I think it should go to every student.
This, if I am not correct, was voted out of the Early Childhood Education Subcommittee. Just Education Subcommittee. Okay. Okay. Delegate Miracle North.
Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, we're voting. So the motion's for a favorable. Roll call. On the favorable, on House Bill 993. I thought you said 933. Oh. 993 as amended. The motion is for a favorable as amended. The chair votes yes. The vice chair?
Yes.
Delegate Ebersol is excused. Delegate Patterson?
Yes.
Delegate Buckle is excused. Delegate Fair? Yes. Delegate Hornberger? Yes. Delegate Long? Yes. Delegate Young? Yes. Delegate Miller? Yes. Delegate Roberson? No. Delegate Roberts? Yes. Delegate Wims? Yes. Delegate Vogel? Yes. Delegate Wu? Yes. Delegate Hartman is excused. Delegate Miracle North? Yes. Delegate Griffith? Yes. Delegate Wells?
Yes, that's my vote.
Yep.
So I think I would prefer if this was done in a way in which every child would be subjected to this. I would prefer that, but it is an important discussion for our young people to have. And so for that reason, I'm going to vote in support of the bill as amended. Thank you.
Delegate Plakovich-Carr?
Yes.
Delegate Feldmark?
Yes.
Okay, House Bill 993 passes favorably as amended. House Bill 1122, Delegate Plakovich-Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill increases the maximum number of members of the Office of Child Care Advisory Council from 30 to 31 and adds a representative of the Maryland Association of Public Library Administrators to the membership of the council. Move favorable.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, House Bill 1122 passes favorably. We have House Bills 1179, 1252, and 1374 have been withdrawn. Is there a consent motion for a favorable on the withdrawn?
Move favorable on the withdrawn as a consent calendar.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, that concludes the voting session for today. Thank you. I've just decided to not make y'all come in because it's going to be a long week. Yay. So.